Yes, you are now listening to the sound. Sports Reports is on. Happy birthday, Jamar. You know what I'm saying? Bro, we are here with some draft reaction. We are here with everything NBA playoffs and everything in between. And when I say we, you know that I mean the even kill. Texas born, by way of BA,
You're
New Jerusalem, from Millville to T-Neck. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
don't do it.
Mr. Logical. And then I am your unorthodox statistician. 2-5. Going left so much you thought I was home. And then I heard these bars out here in these streets. KD said, motherfuck the big three, it's just big me.
Man, you talk about an experiment gone wrong.
Yes, but we'll get to that in a little bit because first we got to get it off my chest. So, life is about continuous learning. As a husband, especially a dude that's on his third marriage, you know,
like Ross.
You know,
like
like,
Ross now.
you gotta learn that sometimes you just gotta apologize. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just gotta take the L and be like, that was on me. So we came up here a couple of weeks ago and we made some predictions. And I came out here and I said the Suns were going to knock out the Timberwolves. I said that. I believed it, you know, and I was going mostly off of the regular season matchups, you know, 3 wins by an average of 16, you know, whatever, right? It's over with. It happened. You know what I'm saying? But Anthony Edwards is here. You know, he is letting everybody know that you got to go through me. And if Denver wins this game tonight against the Lakers, guess who they play in the second round? So, Minnesota, I had you on the clock. I wanted you to prove it to me. You showed it.
Absolutely.
Now, Denver, provided that you win, of course, don't take Minnesota lightly like I did. Because Minnesota's got the new Twin Towers, even though Cat still hasn't done what I would like for Cat to do. For the most part, he didn't have to because Anthony Edwards came through like a comet that we only see every 76 years. But I just wanted to take a second because I owe the Minnesota Timberwolves an apology for even thinking that this half-ass team belonged on the floor with you. So that's my bad. I got to eat that L. I got to do better. Keep up the good work. And let's see how far you can take this thing.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I'm gonna go like a little simple. Like I said, I had my reaction to the Falcons draft, so I don't really like. We're gonna talk about that. This is something I've noticed, and there's something Embiid brought up after the playoff game. Loyalty of a fan base. Now, like I said, I wasn't really much as a basketball fan. Like I was really into baseball when I was younger, so I was pretty much supporting the Braves. I live in the tri-state area now. Like Yankee games always very popular, but I've been a Falcons fan since like 1990. Yeah, 1990. 9 years old. And they had a couple of good runs, some NFC championship games, a couple of Super Bowl appearances in that window, some very dynamic players. But I stick with them. Win, lose, or draw. No matter how the season end, you go 14 and like 13-3 back in the day and losing the playoffs, 12-4. This one the 16-game season, the 28-3. Like I didn't take my hat off and say, you know what, I'm done with this team. I'm switching over to the Patriots because I mean, I thought Tom Brady was it's a great quarterback. I didn't switch it up. So I'm watching this Miami Boston game, and I'm thinking about Game 6 when all the fans left, and then after Ray Allen hit the shot, they all try to run back in. And every year I watch Miami Heat games, and there's always a bunch of empty red seats. This team's been to the NBA Finals twice since then. And it's like, y'all can't stay consistent in the seats. I was watching the game earlier. They were probably down by like 26. I looked up, it was already empty seats. And I get you pay your money and the team loses, but you're probably paying premium prices for those tickets. Just stay through the end. At least consistent, like stay to the end. But it seems like every single opportunity they get to leave early, they leave early. Utah fans are the same way. I stormed the field, I stormed the game once, and everyone was leaving because Utah was down. I believe they were down like I want to say 8 and didn't have the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow got the ball back. I don't know what transpired. Remember, they got the ball back, scored a touchdown, went for 2, got a penalty, then made the 2-point conversion, got the ball back again, kicked the game with a field goal. But with like 5 or 6 minutes left, maybe 7 minutes left, people were leaving.
Right.
And this was the year that they went undefeated, played Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and won that game. So obviously, we know like the smaller teams needed to win all the games, but stay there. Like even if they don't win all the games, like, you're already there. I think it was like a Thursday night game against Oregon State. Just stay there and finish the game out. So it's like if you're gonna be a good fan, like I said, everyone's mad at Embiid for calling out the fans. He's like, yo, half of them sold their tickets to Knicks fans. Now it sounds like Madison Square Garden in Philly. And I get it's close proximity, but show up for your team because it could have been 2-2. It wasn't
Especially
like
in
it
a
was.
city like Philly.
Yeah, like you're such a great sports town and you have such passion for your team. Show up for your team and be there for your team. And I get it, the money thing and everything else. If you can make $600 off your $200 seats, I understand. I get it's economical thing, but you got the tickets because you want to see the team play. The fact that so many people sold their seats is pretty amazing to me. So, like I said, that's my things. Like, if you're gonna be a fan, just be a fan. Like I said, I'm upset with the Falcons. I don't want to buy any more of their gear. But if they play a game reasonably close, depends when the schedule comes out, I'll probably try to check out one of those games. Just because I didn't like Desmond Ritter, but at least he threw a touchdown against the Jets in the game that I saw raining in December. Support your team. I mean, you're gonna argue about them at the barbershop. You're gonna wear the jerseys. You're gonna go to these places. If you go to the game, just stay at the game.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's too much to ask, especially like, that Knicks and Philly was wild. Like, it was like watching a Dallas Cowboy road game or like a Steelers road game.
Or like a Chargers game. Remember the Chargers?
Yeah.
When it was like every other team was represented in the audience except for the Chargers or the Rams when they were playing in the Coliseum. It's weird.
Yeah, it's just weird, but we'll get back to the NBA playoffs later. Sam, we got some other business to tend to. So another draft is in the books. Mr. Logical, as you can tell, has calmed down some. I was fearful that he was having an aneurysm last time we were here. And but a couple of days later, how you feeling?
I'm feeling like my team is good with being slightly above mediocre rebuild. Because mediocrity by definition is just average. I think they're good with having personnel on the team that could maybe get you 10-7, likely to get you 9, could get you 9-8, but a possession here or there, you end up 7-10 yet again for now the 4th year in a row. Because I don't know where they decided we are going to bolster a certain position group or a certain side of the ball or strategy. Like, for instance, the Chiefs drafted a fast wide receiver. He weighs 165 pounds or something like that. He's probably not big. So, more than likely, that guy's not going across the middle a lot. So, with that pick, we're going to pair his speed with Mahomes' arm. I know that definitively. I know there's a defensive coordinator who has to play them in one of these next 17 games next year. I know I have to make an adjustment to that. Atlanta's first pick, literally, I don't have to prepare for. Because if he gets thrown in there, he's a rookie. So it's like, what am I afraid of? He's a rookie. I throw some exotic blitz scheme packages at him, and more likely we get a couple of turnovers early. Or that means the starter either played poorly, so the team is doing poorly, or the starter got hurt. So like the team, like when you're playing against Atlanta, you're like, oh, I have nothing to fear. They didn't get a weapon on the outside to stretch the field. They didn't get a defensive player that's like a hybrid that scares you, a guy off the edge. They didn't get a dynamic linebacker. They got a bunch of defensive tackles, but the defensive tackles they probably could have got that same type of player. I'm not trying to discredit. You can just go get a 6'3", 300-pound defensive tackle as an undrafted guy, or get him from another team. Get him from the Ravens or something like that. So I just feel like they didn't really hit anything in the draft to say we are going for it. If you look to Chicago, granted, Caleb Williams fell into their lap, but they didn't go. You're like, let's get a defensive guy because we already got a couple of wide receivers in free agency. Like, nah, we're gonna full on load up this cannon and just fire as many deep routes and post routes and dig routes as we can at the opposing defenses with our young quarterback, our veteran wide receivers, and our rookie. We're going to put it out there. Can you stop us? So now, I'm a Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator, Brian Flores. I have to game plan for Odunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. Did he get Swift from Philly? Swift from Philly, and Caleb being able to move. Now I'm worried about something. That's the thing with the draft. And I get fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round guys. They probably end up practice squad guys. Some guys get cut. Some guys turn into gyms. Antonio Brown's a fifth round guy. I think James Harrison might have been undrafted. Tony Romo's undrafted. So you can find players everywhere. But as far as those first 2 or 3 picks, I want those picks to be immediate impact guys. And I feel like a lot of teams, Philly got 2 guys in their first 2 picks at corner when they already have 2 good corners, diminishing. You're getting older. You can't get out of your breaks, but you still have 2 good corners. You drafted 2 good corners. I know when I'm in Philly, I'm going to have a problem throwing the ball now. Atlanta, what do you have?
Yeah, and to keep that same train of thought, the Detroit Lions said the Chicago Bears just declared war on us, by bringing in these wide receivers. So we're going to go get Tyrion Arnold and Rick Straw. Like, we're going to get both of these corners you raise me in a Dunze, I raise you a Arnold and a Rickshaw.
Exactly.
And that's what the draft is about. It's filling needs. And I mean, granted, looking at Atlanta, you can't say, like, in some drafts, you can say, hey, you know what? There wasn't anything there where we were picking, so we just took the best available player. Dallas Turner was there. You could argue whether maybe it was too high because he ended up going 17, but he was there. Adunze was there to do the same thing that Chicago did and, deploy weapons because they got Kyle Pitts, Drake London. They picked up Rondale Moore. So,
Mooney.
Yeah.
And then it might be like, glorious riches, but it's like, it's like I said, if you even think about Washington, they didn't play around trying to trade out. They're like, listen, we're getting the guy that, I saw a stat for him 2 years in high school. Jaden Daniels was responsible for 153 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes to college, his last year in college, and does exact same thing.
50 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Yep. And then followed it up by getting what I feel was the best defensive lineman or defensive tackle in the draft. Of course, still got Deron Payne, still got Jonathan Allen, but there's been some rumblings that Jonathan Allen is not too long for Washington anymore.
Yeah,
So,
we saw the do-rag interview.
yeah. So it makes sense. Washington continued the same arc that they started in free agency. They got a bunch of solid dudes that might not blow your socks off, but they got good football players like Ben Simmons, the tight end. He has
Yeah,
the potential, I said potential, to be this year's Laporta. We got Dominique Hampton late. I think he's going to be a starting safety, even though he was a fifth or sixth rounder. Like, I think that's how good he is. He's the most athletic safety in the draft. So when I look at Washington, even though I don't expect Washington to turn around and win 10 games right now, I see the path now. Like, I see the direction of forward.
I don't see
Yeah.
the direction with my franchise that I support.
Yeah.
Another couple of picks because we've had a lot of teams kind of mortgage their future. The Giants had needs at quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, guard, and tackle, and all they got was a wide receiver in the corner in the draft that can
Yeah.
help them this year. Um, I know. I don't know if Daniel Jones. I don't know if he's going to be good even with a really good wide receiver. Like Zach Wilson had Garrett Wilson, and you would think like that relationship, like you'd get something out of that. The way you can guarantee Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson when they're on the field together, you're gonna get 100 yards.
Right.
Tua and Tyreek Hill, you're gonna get 100. Obviously, the ultimate relationship between Kelsey and Mahomes, you're gonna get third down conversions where you probably normally would be punting. Another team would be punting. I don't know if Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones. I don't know if Daniel Jones ascends because he has Malik Neighbors, and I think that's going to frustrate the fan base, as I think it's going to be combustion within the locker room. Because, like I said, we all felt giving him 4 years, 160 was a bad idea. So now you give him this top flight wide receiver that people felt potentially was the best in the draft, and if it doesn't work, then it's going to be like, what do we do from here?
Well, I think that also, you hope that Jalen Hyatt comes on this year as well to give you another threat. And
But that's what I'm
maybe,
saying. So it's like that relate because I don't know if your quarterback makes. I think a great wide receiver can make a quarterback look good.
mhm,
But in the same sense, I think a bad quarterback can basically squander a great wide receiver. We saw with Randy Moss in Oakland. He
definitely,
left Oakland for 23 touchdowns the following
definitely.
season.
And so as I look around, obviously we knew or we felt that Denver was interested in Bo Nix. They ended up taking Bo Nix. I don't support Bo Nix. I don't see it, but I do like the fact that Denver circled around and got Troy Franklin, his receiver from Oregon. So it at least has a person that he's comfortable with, a person that he knows, he has a certain chemistry with,
The
and all
Burrow
those little
Chase,
things
the
help.
Burrow Chase plan, yeah.
Yeah, all those little things help. So we'll see how Bo Nix, ends up. But Minnesota, if JJ McCarthy ain't one of the luckiest dudes in the world, walking into Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, and Aaron Jones with a little bit of TJ Hawkinson on the side. And then Minnesota was able to maneuver to get Dallas Turner, who we mentioned before. So I think NFC North is going to be a war zone this year.
It's about to be exciting. It's about to
Yeah,
be
it's
exciting.
going
I
to be
think it's
real
going to be
exciting.
fun.
And then
I
shout
think
out,
that there's going to be a few more Monday night football games with NFC North teams in them than we really expect because they Jordan Love versus Caleb Williams. That's going to be one. there's going to be some games where this might be a couple of weeks in a row where we're getting NFC North matchups
And
on
speaking
Monday
of
Night
the
Football.
Lions again, you know who the Lions got, right?
Who they get?
They got Sione Vaki.
Oh, the guy from a Utah guy.
Yeah, so shout out to the Lions for doing the right thing.
That dude plays safety, and then they put him in at running back. He had like 200 yards rushing. Like it's just, yeah, it was crazy.
So to make matters worse for Atlanta, as I turn around and I'm laughing at the Falcons, like, what the hell are y'all doing? The Saints go and pick up Kool-Aid McKinstry. They go and pick up Spencer Rattler. So it's like, okay, like New Orleans knows that they're at the end of the road. And they're not going to sit up here and try to keep the Derek Carr dream alive. Like, so.
Yeah, but they got a backup quarterback at value in the 5th round, not with the 8th pick or the 5th pick or the 11th pick. Like they picked a backup quarterback with talent and question marks in the right spot. But like I said, if I'm a Saints fan, I look at that like, all right, bet. So we got an offensive tackle to protect the current quarterback. Then we got a corner to bolster the defense. Okay, Atlanta has big wide receivers. Carolina still doesn't have much. We got to guard Mike Evans in Tampa. That's 6 games out of the year. We need to get better here and here. I think we did that.
Yeah. Carolina had a good first 2 picks, and I don't know what it means for this year. The running back, Jonathan Brooks, is coming off of an injury, ACL, so we'll see if he's even ready to start the season. But Xavier Leggett, great pickup, even though the owner was spending half of the night trying to bully people in bars to take their signs down.
Yo, dude is unhinged. You are a billionaire in here arguing with people at a bar for their opinion. He should have came in like, listen, all drinks on me tonight. Send the bill to my secretary. And people have been like, you know what? No, maybe we should change that sign. That's not a bad guy. He can come in and say, you know what? I like that sign. I think it's funny. You know what? Put my card on the bar. Hey, everything in here tonight's on me up to $10,000 or whatever, something like that. Yeah. He could have done that, and it would have been a completely different story. His ego is out of it, but instead he throws stuff at Jaguars fans. Get fined $300,000. He's run up in restaurants. He took the dude's hat off like a savage. Like he took the dude's hat off like he has a dungeon in his house. Like he just took it off. It was like a creepy. Like he's kind of like he didn't even reach for it aggressively. He just was like, I know I'm gonna be able to take this guy's hat off his head, sit it down in front of him, and then talk shit to him right in his face. And dude was like, he just took it off his head, sat it down. I was like, I'm slapping you. Reach over here and try to take my hat off with 2 fingers. Yeah, I'm slapping shit out of you.
Do you have a team that stood out to you, like somebody that like you haven't heard a lot about, or maybe a team that deserves a little love that hasn't been getting as much as they probably should?
Not really, because I think everybody kind of played par for the course. You basically watched the GGMs watch the college football playoffs because they were busy all year with their actual team and dealing with issues on their team. So when the college football playoffs came out, they watched those 4 teams and then the 2 teams that felt like they should have been in it, and they just picked a bunch of players from those teams. So Texas, Michigan, Washington, Florida State, they all had the most players drafted. Keep in mind, Texas, it was like, I think, what was it, a couple years ago, Texas didn't have any players drafted.
Mm-hmm.
They get like it's the same talent, their same 4 or 5-star recruits coming in Texas every single year, but they make the playoffs. Now the GMs have time to sit down because they're looking at it. Okay, either their season's pretty much over, so now they can look at all these guys, and that's why like 13 guys from Michigan get drafted, 11 from like Texas, 11 to 12 from Texas. I think 10 from Washington. A lot of guys, they got 2 guys from the same team because they went to one pro day and was like, I like that guy and that guy. I'm taking them both. And like, that's it.
Can I have my my biased moment for about 20 seconds?
Let's hear it.
It's the Rams, man. Jarrett Verse, Brandon Fisk, and then they added Blake Corum later. Like, so the Rams really made out.
They got 2 players from Florida State because they were in the last playoff, and they got Blake Corum
for the national champion.
from
Yeah,
national championship
you know what
team.
I mean. But now they have
2
that
players from the
1-2
same
punch.
team because they went to one. They went to one pro day. Denver got a couple players from Utah because they probably couldn't afford to send guys to a bunch of different pro days. So they got a bunch of players from Utah because they probably was sending guys to Utah games for the last 4 or 5 games of the season because it's like, let's just recruit our area here the same way they do with colleges.
Right. And then of course, I was joking around backstage, and I said, and this, like, the first part of it is actually true. The last time the Buffalo Bills made a draft day trade with the Kansas City Chiefs, they ended up with Patrick Mahomes. They did it this time and basically was like, yo, you want another Tyreek Hill? Here you go. If y'all wasn't beating our asses enough, here's another track guy to put next to Hollywood Brown. And speaking of track guys, mark it down. The Miami Dolphins are coming for the gold medal in the 4x100. They already had Tyreek Hill. They already got Jalen Waddle. They went out here and they drafted Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. They went out here and got my guy Malik Washington out of Virginia. Miami is trying to
if
put
they
together.
lined if they lined up a 4x100 team with Tua running the anchor, they probably still win because the lead would be so big from Tyreek, Waddle, and Washington. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got that going on. The Steelers grabbed a guy that I really like a lot, Peyton Wilson. I'm not being biased because of the last name. I just like the guy, but he's one of those guys where the injuries are a concern. So if he can stay healthy, they're going to get a really good player, which they normally do.
I like the guard pickup because they need to open up holes for Najee Harris.
They
at
do.
least tell him how to hit him because he does tend to miss them.
Yeah, and Jalen Polk he went to New England from Washington. He's been my favorite wide receiver in college football for the last 2 years. I don't even know why. I just like him a lot. He's the zone buster. My concern is he doesn't necessarily do the best against the press, if you will. But he is the zone buster that will sit down, keep the chains moving. And then, of course, Tampa Bay got his teammate, Jalen McMillan. And, we already talked about Roma Dunze. So, stand up UW.
So,
and then go ahead.
Where's your other? You said Wilson, right? The kid from Florida State.
No, I was talking about the linebacker, Peyton Wilson from NC State.
Okay, who was it? Was it the
I said McMillan. You talking about Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk?
No, the 6'4" wide receiver from Florida State.
Oh,
Kenyanko. No, yeah. Johnny Wilson.
Well, Johnny Wilson, 6'7". He went to Philly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because I was like, when I saw that pick, I was like, Philly's having a hell of a draft because you got 6'7", got him in the 6th round.
He can't hold on to the ball, but when he does, that's going to be your red zone threat.
Put 12, 15 more pounds on him, put him at tight end.
That might work, but
get him closer to the line of scrimmage, catching passes.
He came over from Arizona State, so something about Arizona State, right? Johnny Wilson, Jaden Daniels, Ricky Pearsall, who the 49ers drafted at the end of the first round and shocked everybody. That was wild.
I'm surprised more current players on rosters that aren't happy didn't get dealt. I'm surprised that didn't happen more often. Like as far as a Brandon Ayuk deal, someone like because if I'm drafting in the first round, it's the same thing they did with AJ Brown in Tennessee a few years ago. If I'm Buffalo, I don't know if that Stephon Diggs contract's really hurting them, but I'm making that call. Like San Francisco, what do you want for Brandon Ayuk? Find out what wide receiver around the league isn't happy that you can move. Adding on AD Mitchell, I'm surprised he was 11th wide receiver taken. But you would think, like, I think if Quentin Ewers gets him a better catch opportunity against Washington, he probably goes higher because it was gonna be a back corner or back shoulder throw. It would have been a dynamic Texas football moment. It wouldn't have been like a Vince Young kind of moment, but it would have been the moment to get them back in the national championship game. I think he would have got more. He would have got more looks. Michigan versus Texas in the championship game. I think he would have been able to put on a show. Then I think he would have gone higher. But yeah, it just like I said, I think a lot of times it's just they. We saw the video
Man
of
already yelling at his coach, ain't he?
who was that?
LeBron.
Oh, I'm watching the
Yeah, he looked like he was
OKC game.
He got halfway down the court and stopped and looked like he was pointing at the bench. And like didn't look calm, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the draft served its purpose. A lot of teams did what they were supposed to do. The teams that usually end up in the middle did things that teams that end up in the middle do. Like you said something along the lines of like out of the first like 13 or 14 teams in the draft this year,
8 of them will be back.
8 of them will be back in the next year.
Yeah.
And I can't necessarily argue with that. You know what I mean? Like as I look at this, because I would like to think so. Looking at it, just peeling it real quick. You know what I'm saying? I would like to think Chicago is going to be good enough to get a wild card, but maybe not just because of their division.
But they earned a 9. They
earned
like the 9th pick
on their own. Yeah,
on their own. Their division got markedly better over the last few years around them. So I think they're the last team of the 4 to get their pieces to make their roster look better.
You might need a year to make it mesh.
Yeah, so you might end up 7-10 simply because your 6 division games, you could go 2-4, and the scores can be 31-28.
Right. And
it could be great games, and you just lose because they have 1 or 2 more years of a relationship. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, 4th and 7. He knows to break the route off here, and now it's it's a touchdown because they have that relationship versus Caleb Williams and Keenan Allen or Romaduzzi trying to figure it out. And it's like, oh, you should have stopped here on this route. And now they got to punt the ball back. And then, little things like that. I don't think it's going to be a flop. I think if Matt Eberflus like really relinquishes the offense to the offensive coordinator, then I think they'll be good to go. But they could end up, like I said, 7-10 strictly off of just other teams' relationships, just beating them out.
Well, I got a team that I want you to keep an eye on. And I also want you to not laugh at me when I say
it. The Jets?
No, the Arizona Cardinals. They went out and got Marvin Harrison Jr. They went and got Trey Benson. Yes, another Florida State guy, but I promise I'm not doing it for that reason. He's just a really good running back to pair with James Conner. So, I don't like the fact that the Cardinals traded Rondale Moore. I like Mr. Logical doesn't know why, but I like Rondale Moore a lot. It goes back to college, back at Purdue.
No, I think it was a good trade. I just don't know what my team is going to do with him.
Yeah.
But because they already have Moody. Moody, they're basically the same player.
We got Caldwell Pope limping now. So I'm going to the locker room, looks like. But yeah, so I think the draft served its purpose. It was a great night, at least the first night was, days 2 and 3. I pretty much watched from my phone, but I was very intensely watching, as I'm at birthday parties and doing family things, I just, but the draft is exciting. I'm excited because 2028, put this on your calendar, Mr. Logical. The 2028 NFL draft is in the nation's capital. So, I plan on checking that out. We'll see.
Doing it at the White House.
So you remember back when Sports Reports is Ordered started, one of the topics that I was always trying to sneak in there was does the sun rise in the west? Well, for damn sure we know that the sun sets in the west.
I have I had an analogy. Oh, 1 for 10 for Brent Ingram. Come on, you got to get better than that. This is what this is. I was thinking about this. As I was getting my notes together. This is how I describe the hype around the Phoenix Suns after they got Bradley Beal. It's like the second Wilder Fury fight. Because last year you had KD and Booker, and it didn't quite work out, but you had some injuries, but you thought, like, you know what, this is gonna work out. So do you get Bradley Beal, and it was like, oh, this next year, this next time around, this next fight, Wilder's gonna really get Fury. He's gonna figure him out. That right hand's gonna land, is gonna knock him out this time. And then you put it out there on the floor, and it gets dissected. And it's like you realize, like, oh, they can't function together because they don't function together offensively. It's the same way with Wilder. You realize, like, oh, all he has is that right hand. So all Phoenix has are three versions of mid-range jump shooters, three versions of guys who could win the scoring title, but they all can average 30 because just mathematically, this is probably not likely. So, and then you don't have any size. Wilder didn't have any size. They just leaned on him, just overpowered him, and just was hitting him with haymakers. And that's what Anthony Edwards was. He just was a walking haymaker, and he was just beating him over the head with it at every chance to get. And he was letting them know. He was not afraid of the moment. He just was literally like, he was giving them the DX signs. And he was calling KD old every game, any opportunity he could. He was cussing at the fans, the refs. Whoever wanted smoke, he was setting them on fire.
Yeah.
And Phoenix just didn't have an answer. No matter, like, and I say you could that kind of offense is great. And like I said, I watched First Things First, and they were talking about the DeAndre Ayton trade. It's like, how could you not figure that out? That's one of those things, like, when you look at the team, it's like, yo, there's not a team really. There wasn't many teams that had a guy that you didn't even run plays for that can get you 17 and 10.
Right.
Just pay him. Pay him like he's giving you 27 and 12. Just know that 17 and 10 is so impactful because you have these jump shooters that can't be guarded.
And just 3 years ago, they had a team that made the NBA Finals. Chris Paul's gone. Obviously, like you mentioned, DeAndre Ayton campaign, so on and so forth. This dude really tore it all down to put this team together. And like when I look at Bradley Beal, a guy that's going to be making 54, 57, and I believe 64 million over the next 3 years with a no trade clause.
$160 million guaranteed over the next 3 years, and he didn't. He refused to waive his no trade clause in June when they asked him last year.
Yeah, and apparently Frank Vogel, at some point I saw a report saying that he went to ownership before the season started, or the GM or whoever, and told them, I need a point guard. We need a point guard in here. And they didn't want to do it because they said that if we get a point guard, it's going to take the ball out of these dudes' hands. And here we are now reading reports that Frank Vogel might not be coming back next season.
Why would he?
It's like, hold up, what did Frank Vogel do? Or what didn't he do? Like, y'all failed Frank Vogel. Like last time I checked, you could say, call it what you want. Frank Vogel has a championship ring that the Phoenix Suns does not have. Frank Vogel is recognized as a very good coach, especially on the defensive end. So you look at your team right now and tell me what of that matches up with what Frank Vogel is and brings to the table. So that's number 2. Yeah. Number three. Y'all had a guy go on vacation until the closeout game where he decided to score 49 points. And odd stat, Like, he didn't hit 50, but I looked it up anyway because I thought he was going to hit 50. When Devin Booker scores at least 50 points, the Suns are 4-4. So they were 1 point away from being 4-5 when he scores 50 points.
50 points.
So now you're in a position of he's younger than KD.
You got to move somebody. You can't move
You
Bradley
gotta move
Beal because
somebody. Yes.
the contract is too ridiculous.
And now we got Stephen A. Smith, saying that Devin
Booker
Booker
wants to
wants
be
to
a
go to
Knick.
New York. And I don't know how that fits, but you know what? Not my problem. Get him out of here.
I don't think it's listen. I think the team was poorly put together, but I've talked about this before with these new owners and the former owners of a lot of teams. It was family money. Say what you want about generational wealth. Some of these sports families are the epitome of that. If you think about Pittsburgh with the Rooneys and the Namaras with the Giants, you had the Bidwells in Arizona as far as football, the Hunt family of Kansas City. Some of these the Johnson family with the Jets, they're not operating the same way. But when these teams get purchased for these crazy amounts, David Tepper paying all the billions he paid for the Panthers, and he's butchering that. What they're doing in Denver, the money they spent, and then this guy in Phoenix. You get these new billionaires, they come in and they think like, oh, I'm so successful to make these billions of dollars. This is just a basketball game. I can make it work too. And it's like, no, you can't just put together an all-star game. This isn't 2K in real life.
Right.
More than likely, you're gonna have to move. I think the best you probably could trade KD.
You probably could just off of a team that thinks that they're a KD away. I don't know who that team is, but somebody that thinks that they're a KD away. Booker probably brings back the most value just because of his age.
I mean, maybe you call New Orleans after their series ends. Well, they're trying to fight it out tonight. They're up 10 minutes to go.
Yeah. So Anthony Edwards, 31 in the second half last night, eliminated his favorite player. And one of the reasons that I love Anthony Edwards is, during his interview, he said, hey, you know what? I've watched just about every KD game since I was 5 years old. And now when I go to the Olympics this summer, I'm going to remind him that I put him out the playoffs. That's what I love about Anthony Edwards. He has a little bit of that old school without being overbearing, without being violent and let's do this and do that. Like, he just has that competition that I long for. So I like
show
that.
up. Let's show up and compete. Let's battle.
Yeah, they out rebounded Phoenix by 15 rebounds per game in this series. And if things hold chalk wise, they're sitting there waiting for the defending champion.
And last check, we got end of the first. Denver's up 28-24 on the Lakers.
Yep, Jamal Murray's 4 for 8 so far.
Sometimes like when guys are kind of injured, they slow down a little bit. They don't dribble the ball as much. They kind of just pick their spots, and I think they get a lot better shots. Like Embiid. Embiid, when he dropped 50, he wasn't doing a lot like dribbling. Granted, they were playing him poorly, and I was screaming about the whole pick and roll, but he's just like getting the ball and was like, listen, I'm 8 inches taller than the guy defending me, so I'm just going to just pull up and shoot this three.
See, and I feel that way. Obviously, I'm no NBA player, but I felt that way about myself. If I was sick, if I had a headache, it was almost like I focused more because I knew I had to. When I was healthy, there's certain things that you take for granted. But then we got this game going on now that we're talking about, Lakers Nuggets. Game 5 tonight. Denver can close it out. Jamal Murray, as I mentioned, 4 for 8 from the field. This seems to be one of those, like when the game first started, it seemed to be, hey, Maul, go take some shots and see how you feel. Because he took a lot of shots really, really early. Jokic is averaging 28, 15, and 12 this series. Just ridiculous. LeBron is turning back the clock, and the only reason in the fourth quarter is that the Lakers have been in some of these games or had the leads that they had. Anthony Davis has had a great series, but they were waiting for someone to come with them.
Well, that's been the same issue they've had for 3 full seasons. I We talked about it before. I've talked about it on the show. Charles Barkley said it years ago. He was like, "You need a guy. You need a definitive superstar to win a championship. You need a superstar player. You need a guy that can get his own bucket. That besides a superstar, and you need a crazy guy." Problem with the Lakers is their crazy guy also is supposed to be the guy get his own bucket, and he can't do it consistently. It was Russell Westbrook for a while. He was the intense guy, the energy guy. It was they got a championship with Dwight Howard, but he wasn't the guy who's going to get his own bucket. D'Lo's supposed to be your guy to get his own bucket. Then sometimes it's Austin Reeves. Rui doesn't really create opportunities for himself to score. So they've been running this same team out there for 3 years. It's just been AD, LeBron, and a conflict with the coach and a playoff elimination, which happens. I get it. But they're literally like we said it 3 years ago. You need another guy. And they always want to say, oh, let's go get Kyrie. Like, you need a bench too. You just gotta find a guy that can, like a guy like Tyrese Maxey.
Learn from Phoenix.
You gotta let a guy develop, but you gotta get a guy that's, don't keep getting these journeyman players and that haven't worked other places and think because you pairing with LeBron and AD is gonna work.
Right.
It's a bad concept that they keep applying every single year. Definition of insanity.
But we're also in this league full of shooters, and they're still not getting shooters. Like so when I look at their roster, I see Gabe Vincent, who was hurt half the year. I see Max Christie, who isn't even playing in the playoffs. And then I guess D'Lo would be your next best bet, but he's not a shooter. He's more like the guy that just shoots a lot and
He's
can
a
get hot.
he's a baller. He's a streaky baller
Yeah,
whose confidence never wavers.
right,
But defensively, I look at it like this: either I let him cook if I'm on the other team. I'm playing a one-on-one because he'll put up some bad shots, which normally are long shots. So you get long rebounds, you get runouts off the rebounds, and then it causes the Lakers to call timeouts. Like things like that, just kind of momentum defining plays. Sometimes he'll assist you with that, but sometimes he'll go 6 for 7 from three.
right,
Sometimes he'll go, 9 for 16 from three and have a great night. But I need you to get 16 to 18 points efficiently, consistently.
right. And
And
you got Austin Reeves, who is averaging 11 when they play in Denver, averaging 21 and a half at home. So, we talk about the
split the
others.
difference. Give me 16. Get
You
me
know,
16. Get to the bucket, get your free throws, hit these open threes that you're never going to get because they're either going to double AD. So when you get these open looks, just knock them down. But also the the Lakers offense is basically, all right, this trip up, we're going to just do this. It doesn't seem to be like a system that they run. It's kind of
right.
like, all right, you got the green light for the next 2 minutes.
AD, I'm tired. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, hey, Braun, my foot hurt. Like, can you, like, take the next three? Like,
Yeah, you
whatever.
you take the next three, or hey, Austin, we think
It's
you
it's it's
have
funny,
the
right?
best one
Because
on
to
one.
me, it's almost like how people viewed before they started winning. It was kind of how people viewed Kyrie and Luca, where it was like, "Yo, your turn, your turn, your
Yeah,
turn," and they were talking about the wrong team though. New Orleans is out of here tonight. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure of.
I'm
Uh,
watching it. They're battling. It's
they're
80 to
fighting.
80
They're
with
fighting, but
with
get them out of
70.
here. Get them out of here. Get Brandon Ingram out of there. Get CJ McCollum out of there. It's time to start over in New Orleans, whatever that looks like. Because Zion can't stay healthy enough for you to move him. So, I think we're at the point where there's just some teams, and I'm not saying that Zion and Brandon Ingram did anything wrong. I'm not saying either one of them did anything wrong. I'm just saying sometimes it just doesn't work. Whether it's circumstance, whether it's luck, whether
Yeah,
it just doesn't work for whatever reason. And I think we've been here long enough to know that this is over with. Like New Orleans is in the play in back to back years. What are we doing? CJ's going to be another year older next year. Let him go to Orlando and mentor or something.
Yeah, the certain teams, like if we think about it, you got to hit on a couple of draft picks 1 or 2 years apart. If you think about Boston, back-to-back years, Tatum, Brown, Al Horford.
OKC. Yep.
You got OKC. They seem to hit with Giddy, and then you get the free agent or the trade piece in SGA. Then you draft Chet. So you're like, okay, we got a little dynamic group, and you got them. You got them organically. You didn't try to piece it together quickly by depleting your entire bench. You had Paul George and Carmelo, and it didn't work out. And Sam Presti just did a great job of like, all right, how do we do a rebuild? How do we do an honest rebuild without being as bad as Philly was with the trusted process, where it's like, come on, man, like you guys are just flat out losing on purpose, or you're trying to develop something. It's a difference. Like Michael Carter Williams was rookie of the year, and they shipped him off the next year because he wanted to win too much.
Right.
So Philly's another example. They had the pieces. They had Ben. They drafted B. They had Ben. They had a couple of free agents. They had those guys were mismatches. It's like boom, we can make this work. They're a bigger version of Tatum and Brown, and they just couldn't keep it together. Like you said, for some reason, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you got to profit
sometimes
off of
nobody
it
does
not
anything
working.
wrong. It just, for whatever reason, there's just always something. You know what I mean? Just like Brooklyn, when Katie and Kyrie were in Brooklyn, like just for whatever reason.
Well, the reason I think they did it wrong there was because my mic went crazy. I think they tried to microwave it.
Yeah.
They didn't need to make the James Harden trade. If they would have gone through that season and been content with going 56-26, 55-27, learn, get some grit. They were trying to go 67-15.
Right.
And just try to just dominate. I'm like, sometimes you just got to be content with playing the way Denver does. Jamal Murray, Jokic, some timely pieces, guys like Jeff Green, KCP in free agency, little moves like that. But when you try to microwave it, it's tough. It's a tough position to put your team in because now the expectation is like, oh, we mortgaged. Like Phoenix mortgaged their entire future. They don't have a draft pick until first round draft picks 25 to 2030. They don't control any of them.
Yep.
So now that it's essentially gone wrong, you got to get some out of it to make it go right. So either you go to Bradley Beal and like, listen, we really want your trade no trade clause. We'll get you the best trade we can get because someone's gonna want to take that on.
Yeah, for some reason.
And
then speaking of things that just happened, it's just the Clippers to give up a 31-point lead and let the other team take the lead. I mean, granted, they held on to win, and I stand by what I said last week. They should have not Kawhi until Dallas gave them a reason to, because I feel that Kawhi hinders them just from the standpoint of they aren't as free-flowing when he's on the floor, because he doesn't have to dribble the ball a lot, but he has to touch the ball. He has to be involved. And sometimes when he's involved, he takes 2-3 dribbles too many, and then he tries to kick it out, and it just doesn't work. And Dallas gets in transition. Paul George, hit the big shot yesterday. James Harden closed it out. But I wanted to talk about, is there going to be a fight in this series? Because Russell Westbrook was wilding out in game 3.
Yeah, I talk about this with hockey sometimes too. Those guys fight all year long, but in the playoffs, they're intense, but they know I don't want to fully hurt my team. And Russ might have just been having one of those nights. He gets into it with the fans. He hears everything, and I think it just gets him jacked up. And sometimes you just gotta will it in. Luckily, as a coach like Ty Lue, who could probably get to him and get him to not do this again in game 5. Like I think like Stephen A. Smith talked about, he thought that he should have been suspended for game 4. Like you already ejected him game 3. It is, you don't have to like double punish him, but like
Yeah,
coming
gave
out
him the
game 5,
flagrant.
yeah, come out game 5. If he has any, that's the thing. His leash is very short. He does anything that's any, like even if it's a good hard playoff foul on a, just chop a breakaway layup, it might get reviewed. And we know how the replay center has been going. Boston was, I want to say, a victim of it tonight, but Boston was outraged with the flagrant that Bam Adebayo got tonight, because he landed in the shooting zone after the play, and they got, so we all know the replay center has not been real favorable to the players. So Russ gets out of hand, he gets a good hard playoff foul, he could be out. Then I think
Yeah.
they will kick him out of the game and then suspend him for the following game.
Yeah, so I said beforehand I thought it was going to go 7. I still think it's going to go 7, but I also think that I'm conflicted, because if Dallas wins Game 5, goes up 3-2 on the way back to Dallas, there's a part of me that says you have to play Kawhi because all hands on deck, win or go home.
Yeah, but
But
not if
I
he's
think
not
your
ready.
chances, right? But I think your chances are better without him. So I don't know. So if the Clippers win tomorrow night, or whenever Game 5 is, then I have to really ask some questions about, what are we doing in LA is number one. Number two, in Dallas, what the hell is going on that y'all can't beat this team without their perceived best player?
I mean, if you think about, is Dallas is not a great team defensively. So
No.
I think they play good team defense. I think they do run big bodies at you, and they put the pressure on you by having these two guys that can score at will. You got 69 points between Luka and Kyrie yesterday. They both played 45 minutes. So I think that's the pressure. Like that's how they like invert like the defensive pressure. Like, oh, I'm just gonna come back downhill with this guy. You can't stop getting to the rim, or a guy that is just so big that he can just, anyone you put out there to guard him, he's bigger than.
Yeah.
Other than Paul George, but I don't think Paul George has the same like weight as Luka. I know Harden can't really guard him, so it's just, I think that's how they make up for the fact they're not a great defensive team. And the Clippers are they're just well coached. It's probably the best matchup, and I think each one of them probably would have been like, maybe I should have been a different seed to just get a different first round matchup, because it's tough. This is probably the toughest one. All the ones out west. I mean, the Lakers Denver series is very tough, but the Lakers are going to be tough no matter what, because they're just a tough team. They're going to battle you. Even if they lose tonight in 5, it's still been a toll on Denver to play, because they've had to come back. They haven't been able to rest any fourth quarter at all. So they made their comebacks in the fourth, but they've been playing hard, 39, 40 plus minutes for all of their stars and even their key role players. A lot of their guys, like Christian Braun, he is only averaging like 6 or 7 minutes. He was huge in the finals last year, but because they're having to crawl back, you got fresh guys on the bench that you can't put in because you got to leave your stars out there.
All right, you ready for my stat of the day / pop quiz of the day?
Let's hear it.
All right, here we go, America. Pop quiz time. So we need some music for that. So the Orlando Magic have won the last 2 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers by a combined 61 points. Who are the last 2 teams that won consecutive games by around that many points? So 60 points or so. And no, it's not the Warriors.
I'm going to say one of the Kobe, Shaq, Laker teams.
Okay.
And the Miami Heat, the LeBron Miami Heat.
You do this every time. The LeBron Cavs. and the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm not saying that Orlando's going to win the title. I'm just saying they're in good company with champions. You know, but game 5
That's
tomorrow.
that was amazing when because like I said, I was on the go all weekend. I was gonna went to the city Sunday. I was watching the draft. I'm just like, then I was out North Jersey on Friday, so like I didn't get to catch all the basketball game. But when I was watching, I was like, "Oh, they have 30 again."
Yep, game 5 tomorrow. Back in, as they say, the land. I said before this series that I know everybody is talking about it and how he's not going to be there and all this kind of stuff. But Donovan Mitchell is just not that type of player. Like, he's a small chucker that is not efficient at all, takes bad shots when the game gets tight or when the team is in a downturn. His answer is to take dumber shots, Orlando at home turned it on. So that's the question, is can they keep the momentum going back on the road?
So this series hasn't started yet.
Correct. We're
Okay,
back to 0-0. It's a 3-game series.
3-game series. I mean, like I said, the just being naive and not understanding how big the moment is might be your biggest asset. Mitchell is probably pressing because he had a couple of good runs. We talk about the playoff run in the bubble. Him and Murray were going back and forth, and that last three, I think Mike Conley shot for the Jazz, rimmed out, and they would have won that series. I think he's just constantly in this battle where he is close. Then they had the Rudy Gobert basically not being able to defend anyone, so that was getting him put out of the playoff series. He wants to be that guy. He wants to be the big money guy, and maybe he's pressing a little bit. Whereas these guys on the Magic are like, "Yo, we're getting to the rim at will. We're getting dunks, we're getting layups, we're getting open threes. We haven't scored like this all year long. This is fun. Let's keep it going."
Yeah, the magic number here, 2-5's magic number is 100.
100
So
points.
yeah, going back to last year in their series against the Knicks, Cleveland has now played 7 straight playoff games without hitting 100 points. So
Yeah, like I
we'll
said,
see.
Orlando, they're just, it's like when you first go to Korea and you see all the bars, you go, "Oh, this is crazy, this is great." But you're like a seasoned vet. You go there 2 or 3 times. You're like, "Listen, man, these bars are cool, but this is the best one. This is the best one." The guys in Orlando like, "Oh, this is all great. I'm going to all these bars. I'm gonna have the time of my life." All right, kick it out, Chet.
Michael Porter confuses me so much. He just, and he could just be a little bit more aggressive. Like, it would just unlock another dimension to Denver. But he's 6'10", and then he like jumps in the air and tries to dump it off. It's like it's like, you're 6'10", dude. Just put a floater up or something. You know what I mean? But we'll skip over Boston and Miami, besides talking about how Bam tried to take out Tatum tonight.
It was
It wasn't on purpose, but I
it
mean,
wasn't on
it
purpose.
was on purpose. He did put his foot there, but I
I,
don't think his intent was.
yeah, his intent was to not let Tatum get a clean look after the whistle at the rim, which is, it's excessive. I see a lot of players do. I've seen Beverly like block the shot. Like the whistle blows, the guy shoots the
Yeah,
floater, and they block it at the rim. But
waiting for
sometimes
somebody to get hurt doing that.
you just gotta play ready. You gotta just be ready. You gotta look for anything. But Bam, when he was saying like, "Oh, he's flopping," it's like, no, like you felt him step on your foot.
Like, yeah, and Bam was just mad because Derek White put it in his face.
Pause.
Saying pause. Saying that Jason Tatum came back down and put it in somebody's face.
Caleb Martin
Pause.
caught
You
all of
know,
that. And he was inside the restricted area, so I think he got free throws out of it too.
he
That's
did.
always the worst. I think the refs just know that they can just let that go. Like,
Yeah.
Doug already got dunked on. it's embarrassing. My grandmother watches these
Oh,
games,
Jamal
and
Murray.
you gonna give him another free throw?
Yeah, this dude, I'm telling you, man, this man he's already 5 of 14. No one else on the Nuggets has taken more than 4 shots. And that was Michael Porter Jr. with the 4 shots. So, and now their Lakers are on a 14-3 run and up by 6 with about 5 minutes left until halftime. Here goes Murray again for another shot. He made that one.
We
So,
got OKC up 8, 45 seconds left.
man, I told you it's over, man. Like the eggs are cold, saying turn the lights out, shut the fridge. So then you got the pace cars taking advantage of the Milwaukee Bucks, who had Bobby Portis getting jacked last night. Chris Middleton went down with an ankle injury for a period last night, and I was just like, there's no way that this is happening. He was able to come back, thank goodness. But this series is probably over for all intents and purposes as well, unless Dame can come back and average 47 the rest of the way.
So if we are, so that means Doc Rivers is probably going to keep his job because everything went wrong, and they're going to be like, you know what? Let's give him a full season, or does he get fired in the middle of the next season?
The same thing we did with Shaq and Kobe, aka Harden and Embiid. I wouldn't give him an extra year, but I also understand that you don't want to be on your fourth head coach in less than 2 years.
I mean, it's a possibility.
Because they had Budenholzer, Adrian Griffin, Doc, and then I'm forgetting somebody that I can't think
think
of.
this is karma for how they treating Booze, because like they fired him like the week his brother died.
They did. So the curse of Bud. There you go. And but yeah, Milwaukee, we already knew that they were DOA to begin with. The Giannis injury just helped us get there a lot quicker than we probably would have otherwise. And then finally, we got Joel Artest Embiid.
I don't know how he's battling through all this, man. Like, I want to bash him just because he's not like winning, but in the same sense, like I never really expected a Joel Embiid. Like I never really thought Philly, after they lost Ben Simmons, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a wrap. Like when they mentally lost Ben Simmons and when he actually got traded, I was like, yeah, I don't know if they can come back from this, because I think he ruined his own trade value, because it just was like, you guys were on a team that looked like you were going to do something for a couple of years, and when it doesn't pan out, and then you mentally seem to check out, and then Embiid is basically left there holding the bag, and then they make the James Harden deal. That doesn't work out either. So I don't know. That's all. I don't feel bad for him in that sense, because I mean, he is an NBA player and he's getting an opportunity. But
he's the reigning MVP.
Reigning MVP.
He went for 50 on Friday. In another game that had Mr. Logical pulling his hair out. And then of course, yesterday he played 43 minutes. 1 point in the fourth quarter, just gassed. And a couple of things that I took away from this series so far. Oh, geez, Gordon. The Knicks have out offensive rebounded the Sixers in this series, 61-36.
Yeah, Embiid doesn't jump for a single rebound.
They last night, Jalen Brunson, my MVP, put up 47 points, took 34 shots to do it. But it is a franchise record for the New York Knicks, so congratulations on that. But
yeah, that's 47 points, and his team didn't score 100.
Yeah, they scored 97, so the rest of the team outscored him by 3. So also yesterday, something that maybe keep an eye on, because he did go to the locker room briefly at the start of the fourth quarter. Looked like an ankle injury, but when we all boil it down, He did finish with 43 minutes. Josh Hart played 45 minutes. And then OG Anunoby played, ready for this one, 47 minutes last night or yesterday. So now I'm going back to the Garden. I guess you're going to rely on the crowd to get the energy and keep the energy going. So this is what I want to ask you. Which road team is more likely to win tomorrow? Orlando or Philadelphia?
Orlando.
So Philadelphia is done.
Yeah, I got Philly's done. Because Tibbs he's gonna run his engine as hard as he can. I don't, like I said, I still don't like his inability to make adjustments. I mean, if you have one guy scoring 47 points, then there should be opportunities for other guys to get open looks. And if you have guys, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, if you got one guy scoring 47 points, your team total should be, give me 110. Give me 110, 112, especially if you got to make adjustments. Like, oh, he's got the hot hand. Granny put up a lot of shots. Get some open looks off of that, or put a lineup out there that matches what he's doing offensively. Instead of just being focused, like, oh, we're gonna just lock in on Embiid. The bro's got to stop complaining.
Mitchell Robinson didn't play, and Hartenstein was in a lot of foul trouble. So that's what makes it even worse. Is that like they had no reason to be out rebounded the way that they were yesterday without Robinson and Hartenstein on the floor for long periods of time. So I don't know. I don't think the Sixers quit. I just think that the fatigue, Embiid's fatigue took over. No Tobias Harris, still nowhere to be found. We got an APB out on him.
He might have one of the most surprising contracts in the league, considering the limited amount of production you get out of him for someone who gets paid that much money.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it disappointing, but it's definitely, he's getting $180 million.
How many rebounds do you think Josh Hart had yesterday?
I think it's 16. I heard a stat earlier.
Yeah, 17.
17 rebounds.
5 of them offensive.
Embiid is the big body and he can't jump. So Philly might have to sacrifice and play two bigs at the same time and just have one guy just out there for rebounds. Because Embiid, literally, I watched the last couple of games, the game where he scored 50 and the game before that when they had all the foul calls, the last 2-minute report where New York scored 6 points in 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't jump for either one of those rebound attempts. And that's
Jamal
how they
Murray,
got.
I'm telling you, man, this man is lighting up whenever AD's near him. Like whenever Jamal Murray sees AD, he's like the little cigarette joint in your car.
Yeah.
he's just charging up, but the Lakers are going to have another halftime lead here.
Halftime lead. Their body language rarely looks like a team that has the lead.
Yeah.
It just feels stressful all the time. Like Denver looks relaxed. They look like, hey, win or lose, we'll regroup, we'll make adjustments, whatever the case may be. The Lakers walk into the locker room at halftime and they just look dejected. And it's like, I don't know what else you would need. I don't know if it's just a matter of you got the greatest player of this generation playing at this age with that skill set and playing that high. And then you have AD. And say what you want about AD with all his availability. He's been available a lot of games this year. Doesn't miss a lot of games. You haven't seen him in street clothes a lot.
He played 76, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he played a crazy number of games. Out of the last 100 games, not to include this series, he played 90 plus.
I wonder if he trimmed down some fat or something, if he lost a few pounds or something.
maybe start doing Pilates or yoga or something like that. Like just something else besides like weightlifting. Because Tom Brady did the same thing. Like he felt like that plyometrics and just being more flexible extended his career. It could be like he just got smarter at passing the ball. He didn't run, he didn't take many hits, but throwing 50 passes and your shoulder isn't killing you, your elbow's not killing you. It must be something to it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like the Lakers just look like a team that's like they look like they're worried about losing the game versus focusing on winning the game.
Yeah, that's why like I was wondering, or I was thinking the other day, when we were watching stuff like LeBron throwing that tantrum and all that kind of stuff, like, is he just at that point of like, we can't blow this? Like, how are we going to blow this tonight? We can't blow this. How are we going to blow this tonight?
It might be he's never lost in the first round. This team swept them last year. He probably takes that personal.
True.
I might be wrong then.
You are. They lost to the Suns. Remember, AD. That was the year AD was hurt, and the Suns went to the finals.
Oh, yeah, that was a 2-7 year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. But then they came back with the Western Conference Finals like the following year. Yeah. So I think it just might be a matter of the fact that this team beat them last year. And there was a lot of those games that were very close. They had some leads, or they were shot here or there from winning the game. And you're just like, and you give everything you have. And he probably knows, like, listen, 8 years ago, I'm beating this team, no problem. Like they beat him in the bubble, obviously back in 2020. But he's like, if I had an extra gear, I know for a fact I'm beating this team. And he doesn't have that extra gear, and there's not another guy on the team that sees that or can make that adjustment. And Father Time is undefeated. We saw Steph's out, Katie's out, Booker's been in the league for a while, he's out. Giannis been in the league for a while, he's about to be out. Dame's about to be out. Like the young guards coming. Jokic, his moment's going to come to where it's going to be like, hey, the Minnesota Timberwolves are just going to be head and shoulders above the Nuggets. Yeah. OKC is going to be able, if they can if these guys can kind of put their contracts together to where they can keep their core together. I don't know, because it's going to be a lot of young guys that are going to be up for money. I don't know how you divide that up, but if they can keep their core together, so your time when you're riding off to the sunset will come. And I think he just doesn't want it to be now, because they had a lead at halftime in every single one of these games.
Yeah, if you add up all the time in this series that Denver has had the lead, it's 1 minute more than how long an NBA game is.
Yeah,
and we're in game 5.
73% of these games, the Lakers have been in the lead.
Yeah, and now they're only up 3 at the half right now, so that probably in the back of somebody's mind in that locker room. It might not be LeBron, it might not be AD, but somebody in that locker room is like,
someone's not going to take an open shot.
Yeah,
like it's going to swing to Rui. He's not going to take the open shot.
Yeah,
he's going to get it to D'Lo with 4 seconds left on the shot clock. Bad shot, long rebound. Aaron Gordon lob dunk. And now the score is 58-53, and Darvin has to call a timeout.
Yeah.
Something like that. So,
yeah. So, but hey, America, thank you for your support.
As always,
review, subscribe, share. And I got good news for you. It's all free. So, we will be back on Thursday, with some more NBA playoffs and see what else is going on in the sports world. But until then, he is your even keel, non-emotional, all logic all the time. I am your unorthodox, the charismatic charmer, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no big three. It's just a big KD. Pause.
Yeah, I know who I am, Kevin Durant.
That's
That's
right.
that's that's probably one of the dopest quotes ever. So shout out to KD,
Yeah.
a career well played. I don't think he's calling it quits or anything anytime soon, but yeah, you gotta give him his flowers. Man. Like I say, just Father Time is man. They're undefeated. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even have a beard 10 years ago. Now it's all gray hair in the front. Like it comes for everyone.
Yeah, but
And
Kevin Durant told you who he was. All we had to do was watch The Wizard of Oz and follow the Tin Man. It just is what it is. Like, sorry, KD or Easy Money Sniper, or he was our first enemy of the show.
yeah, we had a few back and forth
you,
messages for
you know,
him.
what
I
I'm
wish he
saying?
would have replied. It'd have been dope.
Yeah, but Sports Reports is on it. See you in a few days. We love you, America. Peace.
Peace.